You know what, James, you're right. We haven't done a shop tour in a long time, if ever, really. I mean, I know that we've done bits and bobs and stuff like that, but you haven't actually seen the shop. So, you know, this is where, for me, where every single guitar starts. No joke, the wood room. We call it the wood room. It's the wood room. It's also our lunch room, but I don't eat lunch. I know, surprising. We've got a lot of stuff here. We have full 16-foot planks of Spanish cedar. These guys are full length all the way down, full width, just an extraordinary amount of wood. And so we do a lot of necks out of this. Although Spanish cedar isn't my favorite, this works really, really well. We've got all sorts of, let's see, cherry and walnut, and, you know, oddly enough, we always put the cherry on top for some reason, which I learned recently. Cherry wood is different from the wood from a tree that provides cherries. I mean, the cherry wood provides a very small berry, but it's inedible, and even the birds don't eat it. So, hey, go figure, right? I've got other rosewoods, which I guess I won't say the place of origin, but if you know, you know. And actually, some of the coolest wood I have is over here. This piece of maple, and actually, this is off of Brandon's guitar. This stuff, if you see the charring on the edge, is from the old Bowman factory. They had a fire, and all this char here on the edge is from the soot. So that's from there. You know, over here, I've got a couple fingerboards. Don't drool too much because I do have to rotate those about once a year, and you know, one of the downsides to having a whole bunch of space is that you find space to fill your empty space. So I've got a whole bunch of projects here that have made it over for my house, or something that I got ambitious and thought I'd do and got busy and didn't. And so, yeah. Anyways, I like to keep a lot of my wood here in this room, which is, you know, not as tightly controlled as my workshop. So this room is roughly 50% plus or minus about 5% relative humidity year round. That's good enough for me in terms of maintaining the wood levels. For the larger planks of woods, yes, I'm going to give that some time over on the other side, where I know that it's 50% relative all the time, but for the tops and stuff like that, it's close enough. These ebony fingerboards, I'm not going to use them unless they've been in my shop for 7 years, which is why I carry so many of these. And between the guitars that I build, the guitars that my father builds, the fingerboard replacements that I do, and the fingerboard replacements that he does, we actually go through this at a surprising clip. And yes, we do rotate it theoretically every year, but it ends up being closer to every 2. Now let's keep on going through the shop this way. So, as you can see, there's a whole lot going on everywhere, and you know, we've got, if you've ever seen me on a video call, our kitchen, and this is where all of that happens with well, my energy station. And if I'm playing violin, that's also where I'm playing violin. Now over here, we have all of our major tonewoods as well. We've got our spruces, about 20 different varieties, and we've got our cedars, about 5 to 7 different varieties. And this is more or less where a lot of this beginning portions of the guitar build start. Now, at this point, we actually get into the office, and yes, I have an office, even though I try not to spend too much time here. You know, sometimes computer work has to be done. I mean, these videos don't come together all by their lonesome, and you know, I've got all this stuff that comes in as well. Let me show you the office. So over here is my man James. You know, without him working on the videos, all this YouTube stuff wouldn't happen, so I can't do it without him. Anywho, let's head into the workshop because you probably can't see me, and it's a terrible view anyways. So, as you can see, we get a lot of guitars shipped in all over the place. We've got our in pile and our out pile, and stuff's always going in and out. As you can see, we also have a lot of repairs going on here and going on back over there. So there's always something going on. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is because this one just got into clamps. It's drying. It's probably getting pretty close to getting ready to be worked on, but until then, not quite. And, you know, I've got the other bits going on. And so normally, whenever we film a video, we try to reduce the noise for you guys because, you know, there's a lot going on. I've got 2 dehumidifiers and an air purifier that actually run all the time. The only time that my air purifier turns off is when the camera's rolling, well, except for this time. So there we go. As you can see, I've got guitars that are in process. I've got repairs that are in process. All kinds. I don't only work on the crazy expensive stuff. I work on all sorts of stuff. And, you know, right now, it's a little bit of chaos as we are getting things together. You know, I've got my bandsaw and kind of my sharp thing station, so my joiner and belt sander kind of all within one area, so that way I can just use most of this off of one dust collector. And that's actually a very important detail. Make sure that your dust collectors are within reach. And I try to just run one of these. I'm not a big fan of the hard plumbed stuff where you've got a bunch of blast gates, because all of those eventually leak air. They don't work well if they're leaking air from a bunch of places. So I want to have as much direct suction coming through. Now, as we go through this shop, we've kind of got our main table, and what I don't think really comes across in the videos is that we have got enough space to take a cut of a 10-foot sheet good and run a full 10-foot this way. So sometimes when we're breaking down, well, when I was making these tables, for example, they started off as 10-foot sheets of particle board and just kind of ran that through. Now, one of the other things that's really nice is making sure that we have several different band saws on hand. So that way we can be set up for a rough cut or a finer cut. Now, this, you know, I'm a big fan of these smaller 14-inch bandsaws. I grew up using this one in particular. This is my father's. He actually runs a 14,000th blade, which is fairly thin because he doesn't like to have the kerf taken out. I run a 24 thousandths just because I don't like to change blades very often. But that said, we will often jump between each other's tools depending on the kind of cut and kind of finish that we want off of that cut. Now, as you can see here, we've got some guitars in repair and our thickness sander. Again, another joiner. The reason I've got 2 joiners, one is set up for a very light cut, you know, just almost nothing passes. The other one is set up for a little bit of a heavier pass. Yes, I know it's kind of crazy to have 2 when I can just adjust it. But I actually have adjusted this one so it takes 1/10 of a millimeter cut. So if I'm going and trying to cut something and I'm measuring it and I want to get to a specific number before I take a few passes with my hand plane, I know that I can reliably pass that material over this one and take those cuts. Now, this table saw is my workhouse table saw. It's a early 50s, late 40s Yates American. It's got a 3-phase, 5 horsepower, belt-driven motor. So, you know, this thing, it spins up really fast. It runs really clean. Yes, I don't have a riving knife on it. I actually don't run riving knives because I switch blade thicknesses so much. A. B. I'm not typically cutting goods that are that long and that kind of squirrely. And if I do, I typically will do it with somebody else in the shop, and I'll have them kind of jam a wedge into the kerf line so it acts as a riving knife. I know it's not the safest way about going through this, but it's actually kind of, well, for my situation, it works. So over here, I've got my radial arm saw. I think I've used this in a few videos. But in reality, this is just a nice flat surface for me to put stuff on when I'm not using it. Because much like nature, my shop abhors a vacuum. Speaking of vacuum, this thing, I made this fence as a vacuum fence. So this thing, believe it or not, runs mostly dust free, and has taken it from a tool that is kind of useless because it causes so much mess that any time savings that I had using this was taken up by cleanup, to something that, I can, I'll clean it off and just use it. Now, I've got a planer, which, again, I don't use very much, but when I do, it's invaluable. But this guy, which I'm going to be using in an upcoming video, is extraordinary. This has a 3-head drill press with a pneumatic clamp. So whenever I'm drilling out my holes for my machine heads, I'm using this. It runs off of a little air compressor, and you just step on a pedal and it rolls. It saves me tons of time. Now, over here is my machine that I use to create the neck joint, where I've got the angle built into this, the belt right against the body to create its own call, and this really takes almost all the thought out of the whole process. And on this side, again, within easy stepping distance of my dust collector, is my full manual thickness sander. And it's really rudimentary, but it's something that I know this machine. I grew up using this machine. I almost use this machine better than I speak English. Yeah, I see what you're doing in the comments. Basically, you get to handle all of the tracking of the blade, of the belt, going from side to side, as you're constantly running around. And you can't take a very heavy cut with this. At most a 1/10 of a millimeter. So it takes quite some time to burn through the material. But that said, yesterday my father was using this machine, and he was able to get a piece of veneer on the sled down to 3/10 of a millimeter before it started to kind of go wonky on him. So we've taken stuff reliably down to 2/10 of a millimeter, and it's pretty impressive. We have a bunch of other stuff kind of jammed back here, which we don't use very often. I've got a huge reciprocating saw. It's basically like a jeweler's saw, but there you go. I've got my side bending jig, which is great if I want to do about 100 guitars worth of linings at a time. I've got another thickness sander, which I have set up with a heavier belt on it. I don't use it very often. And I've got another bandsaw set up with kind of just like a junk, I'm throwing stuff through a blade. Honestly, I bought out a shop that where the maker was retiring, and this was kind of part of it. So I ended up with that. Back here is kind of my shipping station, and actually my candling table. So if I'm graduating a top, I'll take the guitar top and put it down on this light so I can see the stiff spots and the weak spots in the wood, and I can get a better understanding of how that goes. And I'm sure you're going to comment down below if you get this far to have me show you that. And maybe I will. Just ask me nicely. So that's it for the workshop. It's actually a pretty good sized space, but this is only kind of half of it. So let's head across the parking lot to the showroom. And yes, I have my showroom here. It's just it's a little ways across, and so that way if you guys come out to play some guitars, they're right there, and I'm not going to be bothering you while I hammer in some frets. So let's head over that way. come on in. So, welcome to the showroom. If you guys ever saw me at some of the older festivals, like the GFA, I took this wall out there and a couple others. This is the wall that I used to travel with, where I'd put it onto the back of my car and drive to wherever it was with way too many guitars. And we had a lot of fun. And now I've got too many guitars here, or not enough place to display them. So it lives here, and I like it. So this is now kind of the entrance and our museum, where we actually have, a number of guitars. First one being this Manuel Soto y Solaris, which is really cool. Use your imagination here, because this is where my Todoros usually lives. Currently, it's over in the workshop because we're doing all the work on Brandon's guitar. I want to have something that's right there available for immediate reference, so I know what kind of tool marks and whatnot to have there. Now, the other thing that's really cool is this Manuel Gutierrez. This guitar and that guitar, actually both of these, all three of these, were made on the same street at the same time. I don't think that there's any other collections out there that have all three and can put them together. And the really cool thing is that you can look at the Gutierrez and see where Todoros got the idea of the depth from. You can look at the Soto y Solaris and you can see where he got the idea of the outline from. And for him combining those two ideas and then putting his own spin on it, well, I mean, that's essentially how we got to where we are with the modern guitar. Now, the other thing that we have over here is a really cool Baroque guitar. This one was made by my father and was on display at the Smithsonian Museum. And it still needs an extra string, but so there we go. Now, coming into it, this is probably the view that you're used to seeing. This is where Brandon and I will sit there and talk and have endless conversations. You've probably seen samurai guitarists sitting right here and Brandon sitting right here having endless conversations. You've seen this room. And this is one of my favorite rooms on the whole face of the earth, because this has some of my favorite guitars all over it. You know, from my Hausers all the way down to some guitars that were made by people, you know, my friends over in China, Yan Li. He's a fantastic maker. I've got one of his guitars currently. You name it. I've got so many of them that I love. And actually, I love all of the guitars here. I've got a beautiful Trap Hagen. And you name it, they're fantastic. I love being in here because for me, it's not just about the guitars, but it's the inspiration. Against this wall, I've got a few more in the collection. This one is a pristine 34 Santos, possibly one of my favorite guitars of all time, just because I grew up listening to my father play flamenco. And this one is the second guitar that Segovia had from my father. And we've got a nice little letter from him saying how much he loved. Well, actually, that was his. Yeah, we have a letter from him saying how much he loved it, and that this was his new favorite Hauser, meaning it was his favorite guitar since his 37 Hauser, that iconic 37 Hauser. And, well, here we are. You know, this is, you've seen me all over here, and now you can kind of put it together. Thanks for taking a tour of the shop. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate you. I'll see you next time, and keep working.